Millionaire disguises himself as Uber driver to investigate his wife, and during the ride discovers something unbelievable she had been hiding for years. Imagine discovering that the person who sleeps next to you for 12 years was keeping a secret so devastating it would change everything forever. Nathan Williams lived exactly this when he found a message on his wife's phone that destroyed his world in seconds. "Can't wait to see you today, beautiful. Same place as always." Those words from an unknown number made this millionaire's heart stop. 12 years of apparently perfect marriage crumbled in that instant. Victoria, his elegant and sophisticated wife, was betraying everything they had built together. But Nathan didn't do what most people would do. He didn't hire a private detective. He didn't confront Victoria directly. Instead, he made the most desperate and dangerous decision of his life. Nathan disguised himself as an Uber driver to spy on his own wife without her discovering his true identity. The disguise idea came when Nathan realized hiring a private investigator would be too risky for someone in his position. Any leak could destroy not only his marriage but his carefully built business reputation. Derek, who had worked for the Williams family for 6 years, suggested the desperate plan. "Mr. Nathan," Derek had said with his usual discretion, "if you really want the truth without anyone discovering it, you need to uncover it yourself. I can get you an Uber car and teach you the basics. With some glasses and different clothes, nobody will recognize you." Initially, Nathan rejected the idea as completely ridiculous, but the more he considered it, the more sense it made. Victoria would never suspect her millionaire husband would be driving an Uber through the streets of Atlanta. For 4 days, Derek taught him the essential skills of being an Uber driver: how to use the app, the most popular routes, how to interact with passengers. Nathan discovered he knew surprisingly little about the city he thought he knew so well from the back seats of his luxury cars. On the 5th day, Nathan positioned himself near the exclusive Lenox Square Mall where Victoria frequently went shopping. He wore thick reading glasses, a worn denim jacket, and a simple t-shirt he had bought specifically for this mission. He had let his hair grow messy for several days, completely changing his usual perfectly styled executive appearance. For hours he waited, watching every car that passed, every person walking on the sidewalk. His heart pounded every time he saw a female figure that remotely resembled his wife. On the 2nd day of surveillance, Nathan almost abandoned his desperate plan entirely. The uncertainty was eating him alive, and he began questioning whether he had misunderstood the text message completely. Maybe there was an innocent explanation for everything his paranoid mind had conjured up. But then he remembered other small details he had overlooked during their marriage. The phone calls Victoria would end abruptly when he entered the room, the increasingly frequent excuses to go out alone, the way she had started dressing more carefully even for the most ordinary activities. It was on the 3rd day when he finally spotted her walking out of the mall. Victoria emerged carrying several designer shopping bags, but something about her behavior seemed completely different from usual. She kept looking around nervously as if expecting someone or fearing being seen by the wrong person. Nathan felt his stomach twist into knots as he watched his wife walk toward the rideshare pickup area. Without thinking twice, Nathan started his Uber and drove toward where his wife was standing. When he pulled up in front of her, Victoria climbed into the back seat without even glancing at his face. Nathan silently thanked God for this small mercy as his heart hammered against his chest. "Good afternoon," Nathan said, disguising his voice to make it deeper with a slight southern accent he had been practicing. "Where can I take you today?" Victoria gave him an address that Nathan didn't immediately recognize, located in a middle-class residential neighborhood, completely different from their exclusive gated community where they lived. While driving through the heavy afternoon traffic, Nathan observed his wife through the rearview mirror, trying to decipher her expression without being obvious. Victoria seemed anxious, constantly checking her phone and fixing her hair in ways he had never seen before. She wore a dress Nathan didn't recognize from her extensive wardrobe, and her jewelry was different from what she usually chose for shopping trips. "Is this your first time going to that address?" Nathan asked, trying to sound like a curious driver without raising any suspicions. Victoria looked up from her phone for the first time since getting into the car. Through the rearview mirror, Nathan could see her beautiful blue eyes, the same ones he had fallen in love with years ago. But now there was something different in them, a mixture of excitement and guilt that made his blood run cold. "No," she replied softly, her voice carrying an emotion Nathan couldn't immediately identify. "I go there quite regularly these days." Nathan felt like someone had punched him directly in the gut with those simple words. The confirmation that this wasn't something new but an established routine made the betrayal cut even deeper than he had imagined. How long had this been going on right under his nose without him having any clue whatsoever? Must be a special place then, Nathan commented, fighting to keep the conversation casual while his entire world crumbled around him inside the confines of this borrowed Uber vehicle. Victoria remained silent for several long minutes, and Nathan thought she wouldn't respond to his fishing expedition at all. But then, to his complete surprise, she began talking in a way that revealed far more than he ever expected to hear. "Yes, it's very special," Victoria said, her voice loaded with an emotion Nathan couldn't immediately place or understand. "It's where I go to see someone who means everything to me. Someone my husband has never met and never will." Nathan gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned completely white as the blood drained from his hands. Here was the confession he had dreaded but desperately needed to hear with his own ears. His wife was admitting her affair to a complete stranger, an Uber driver who had no idea who she really was in her normal life. "Your husband doesn't know about this person?" Nathan asked, his voice nearly breaking despite all his efforts to maintain the fake accent. "No," Victoria responded while staring out the window at the passing scenery. "And if he ever found out about this, I think it would absolutely destroy him beyond repair." Victoria's words echoed in Nathan's head like funeral bells tolling for his marriage. She was right about one thing. He felt completely and utterly destroyed by what he was learning. But what hurt even more than the betrayal itself was the fact that she seemed fully aware of the damage this would cause him. "Why don't you tell him?" Nathan asked, feeling like walking this emotional tightrope while driving through Atlanta traffic was the most difficult thing he had ever attempted in his entire life. Victoria sighed deeply, a sound heavy with sadness that Nathan recognized from their years together. It was the same sigh she gave when facing difficult decisions, the same one she had made when they decided to get married, when Nathan proposed expanding his business nationwide. "Because he wouldn't understand," Victoria said finally, her voice carrying years of hidden frustration. "My husband is a good man, but he lives in a world where everything has to be perfect, controlled, and successful. There are parts of real life that he simply couldn't handle or accept." Nathan felt like he had received another devastating blow to his already shattered ego and self-image. Was that really how his wife saw him after all these years of marriage and partnership together? "Maybe he would want to understand those parts of your life if you gave him the chance," Nathan suggested, fighting against every instinct to rip off his disguise and confront Victoria directly in the back seat. "Maybe he loves you enough to accept whatever complications this might bring to your perfect life together." Victoria laughed softly, but it wasn't a sound filled with joy or happiness at all. "I don't think so," Victoria replied with unmistakable sadness in her voice that cut Nathan to his core. "He's so focused on his business empire, his success, maintaining the perfect image of our family that he doesn't have time for real complications. And this, what I'm doing, would be the biggest complication of his entire carefully planned life." As they drove through the streets toward this mysterious destination, Nathan realized this conversation was revealing much more than he had ever bargained for or expected. Not only was he discovering his wife's affair, but he was also seeing a painful reflection of himself as a husband through her eyes. The neighborhood they were approaching was quiet and peaceful, with modest but well-maintained houses, small gardens, and tree-lined streets that felt like a completely different world. It was entirely different from the glass towers and five-star restaurants where Nathan spent most of his business life conducting meetings and deals. "We're getting close," Victoria announced, interrupting Nathan's spiral of self-reflection and growing panic. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said, sensing this might be his last opportunity to understand before reaching whatever destination awaited them both. "Does this person make you happy?" The question seemed to surprise Victoria, who looked toward the rearview mirror to study the Uber driver asking such personal questions about her secret life. For a moment, Nathan feared she had recognized him through his disguise, but Victoria simply smiled with a mixture of sadness and genuine warmth. "Yes," she answered simply, but with deep conviction. "This person makes me remember who I used to be before I became the perfect corporate wife." Those words pierced Nathan's heart like sharp daggers cutting through all his defenses and self-justification. "Here we are," Victoria said as they pulled up to a modest two-story house with a well-kept front yard and a white picket fence. Nathan stopped the Uber and turned slightly, trying to get a better view of where his wife was going without revealing his true identity. Victoria paid the fare and added a generous tip as she always did with service workers. "Thank you for listening. Victoria said to Nathan through the window. "I don't usually talk about these things with strangers, but you seem like someone who understands complicated situations." As Victoria walked toward the front door, Nathan watched her movements carefully from inside the car. Her body language was completely different from how she behaved at home. More relaxed, more natural, more authentically herself than he had seen in years. When she reached the front door, Victoria didn't need to ring the doorbell or knock at all. The door opened immediately, as if someone had been anxiously waiting and watching for her arrival. What Nathan saw next left him completely paralyzed with shock and confusion rather than the anger he had expected to feel. From the house emerged a middle-aged man with graying hair and a warm, welcoming smile. But this wasn't a young lover or romantic rival as Nathan had imagined during his days of tortured speculation. The man appeared to be in his 60s, and when he embraced Victoria, it was with the kind of familial affection Nathan hadn't seen his wife display in years. Behind the older man, Nathan could see a young woman, probably in her 20s, who rushed out to greet Victoria with equal enthusiasm and obvious joy. Nathan remained frozen in the Uber, watching this unexpected family reunion unfold before his eyes with growing confusion instead of the righteous anger he had prepared himself for. This wasn't the romantic affair he had feared discovering, but it was clearly something Victoria had been hiding from him for reasons he couldn't yet comprehend. The young woman had Victoria's same bright smile and elegant way of moving, suggesting a family connection Nathan had never known existed. As the three people disappeared into the house together, Nathan sat in stunned silence trying to process what he had just witnessed firsthand. His wife wasn't having a romantic affair, but she was clearly maintaining relationships with people who meant a great deal to her. People Nathan had never heard mentioned in 12 years of marriage. Who were these individuals, and why had Victoria kept them secret from him all this time? Nathan started the car and drove aimlessly through the Atlanta streets, seeing the city from an entirely new perspective as an Uber driver rather than a passenger. He noticed things he had never observed from the back seats of his luxury vehicles, the tired expressions of people waiting for public transportation, small family businesses struggling to survive, the real life that existed outside his privileged bubble of success and wealth. After driving around for over an hour, Nathan decided to return to his downtown office building where he had an important meeting scheduled with potential investors from New York. He parked the Uber in a discreet location, changed clothes in a nearby restaurant bathroom, and arrived at his corporate headquarters trying to appear completely normal and professional, despite his inner turmoil. "Mr. Nathan, are you feeling all right?" asked his personal secretary Linda, immediately noticing something was different about his usual confident demeanor. "You look somewhat distracted today." Nathan lied smoothly, claiming he was just slightly tired from working late on new projects. But the afternoon meeting with the New York investors was a complete disaster from start to finish. Nathan, who was normally charismatic and persuasive in business negotiations, seemed distracted and completely uninterested in the multi-million-dollar deal being discussed. The investors noticed his lack of focus immediately, and several expressed serious doubts about the project after Nathan made basic errors in his presentation that he would never normally make. His business partner Richard confronted him privately after the investors left the meeting, clearly unsatisfied with what they had seen. "What's wrong with you today?" Richard demanded with obvious frustration and concern. "You seemed like you were on another planet entirely during that presentation. These people flew here from New York specifically to meet with us, and you completely blew it." Nathan couldn't explain to Richard that he had spent his morning disguised as an Uber driver, spying on his own wife without sounding completely insane. That evening, Nathan arrived home earlier than usual to his mansion, with its imported marble floors and expensive art collection that suddenly felt cold and empty. Victoria was in the kitchen overseeing dinner preparation, looking as elegant and composed as always, as if she had spent a quiet day at home, rather than visiting mysterious family members Nathan had never known existed. "You're home early tonight," Victoria commented, approaching to give him their usual welcome home kiss on the cheek. "How was your day at the office?" Nathan studied her face carefully, searching for any sign of what he had witnessed that afternoon. But Victoria appeared completely normal, as if nothing unusual had happened in her day at all. "It was interesting," Nathan replied, choosing his words very carefully. "How about yours? What did you do today?" Victoria's response came so naturally and smoothly that it shocked Nathan with how easily she could lie to his face. "The usual routine," she said without missing a beat. I went shopping at the mall this morning, had lunch with some girlfriends, and spent the afternoon reading a new novel I picked up. The ease with which Victoria constructed this false narrative hurt Nathan deeply and made him realize how many other times she might have lied about her activities without him suspecting anything. During dinner with their teenage children, Nathan observed his family with new eyes, wondering what other secrets might be hiding beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect life together. Their son Brandon, who was 19 and studying business at Georgia Tech, talked excitedly about a startup idea he was developing with classmates. Their daughter Ashley, who was 17 and active in her high school drama program, shared details about an upcoming theater production she was directing. Nathan found himself wondering if his children knew anything about Victoria's secret family visits, or if he was the only one being kept in the dark. After dinner, while Victoria helped Ashley with college application essays, Nathan retreated to his home office surrounded by business books and professional achievement awards. He poured himself a glass of expensive whiskey and tried to decide what his next move should be in this increasingly complicated situation that was consuming his thoughts completely. He could confront Victoria directly about what he had discovered, but that would mean admitting he had been spying on her like some paranoid stalker. He could hire a professional private investigator to learn more, but that felt like an even greater betrayal of their marriage vows and trust. Or he could continue his Uber driver disguise to try understanding the complete situation before taking any irreversible action. The next morning, Nathan made a decision that surprised him. He told Derek he needed the Uber car for another few hours, inventing a story about wanting to better understand transportation needs in the city for a potential new real estate development project. This time, Nathan arrived earlier at the shopping mall area, where he had picked up Victoria the previous day. Nathan didn't have to wait long before spotting Victoria leaving the upscale department stores, but this time she wasn't alone, as she had been yesterday. Walking beside her was a woman Nathan recognized as Jennifer, the wife of one of his business associates. Both women appeared to be having an intense, serious conversation as they made their way toward the rideshare pickup area where Nathan was positioned. Nathan quickly started the Uber and positioned himself to be the next available ride when the two women requested transportation. When they approached his vehicle, Nathan felt a moment of panic, wondering if Jennifer might recognize him, but she climbed into the back seat without giving him a second glance, followed by Victoria, who also showed no signs of recognition. "We need to go to St. Mary's Hospital first," Jennifer said, giving Nathan the address with obvious stress in her voice. "And then if it's not too much trouble, we'll need to make another stop after that." During the drive to the hospital, Nathan overheard a conversation that confused him even more about Victoria's secret activities and the mysterious life she was leading. Jennifer was thanking Victoria repeatedly for something, mentioning how brave and generous Victoria had been in helping her family through an unspecified crisis. "I don't know how to thank you enough," Jennifer said with tears in her voice. "Without your help, I honestly don't know what we would have done in this situation," Victoria responded gently, telling Jennifer that everyone needs support during difficult times. "But the risk you're taking," Jennifer continued with obvious worry. "If your husband ever finds out what you're doing for us, there could be serious consequences for your marriage." Victoria's response was firm and resolute. "Nathan won't find out," she said with confidence. "And even if he did, some things are more important than keeping the peace at home when people are truly suffering." Nathan gripped the steering wheel tighter as he tried to understand what kind of help Victoria was providing that involved such secrecy and potential risks to their marriage. When they reached the hospital, Jennifer got out but leaned back toward Victoria with continued gratitude. "Will you be okay going to the other place alone today?" Jennifer asked with genuine concern in her voice. "I'll be fine," Victoria assured her friend. "You know this is something I need to do regularly now." After Jennifer disappeared into the hospital entrance, Victoria gave Nathan the same address from the previous day, the modest house with the white picket fence and well-maintained garden that had revealed Victoria's secret family connections. During this second trip to the mysterious house, Nathan decided to take a calculated risk by asking more direct questions. "Your friend seemed very grateful for something you're doing," Nathan commented, trying to sound like a naturally curious Uber driver. "You must be helping her with something pretty important to make her that emotional." Victoria looked out the window thoughtfully before responding. "Sometimes when you have the ability to help someone in need, you have a moral responsibility to do it," she said quietly, "even if that means keeping secrets from the people closest to you." Nathan felt his heart racing as he realized Victoria was essentially describing the exact situation he found himself in. "What if your family found out about these secrets?" Nathan asked, pushing the boundaries of what an Uber driver might reasonably ask a passenger. Victoria turned to look at him through the rearview mirror, and for a terrifying moment Nathan thought she might have recognized him despite his disguise. "Then I guess they would have to decide whether they love the real me or just the version of me they thought they knew," Victoria said with a sadness that broke Nathan's heart completely. When they arrived at the house, Nathan watched as Victoria was again warmly welcomed by the older man and young woman. But this time Nathan noticed something else. Victoria was carrying a large envelope and several bags from the pharmacy. She wasn't just visiting family, she was providing financial and medical support to people who clearly depended on her help. As Victoria disappeared into the house, Nathan sat in the Uber making the most difficult decision of his life. He couldn't continue this charade of spying on his wife while remaining ignorant about who she really was as a person. That evening, Nathan returned home determined to have an honest conversation with Victoria about everything he had discovered. He found Victoria in her study, reviewing what appeared to be medical bills and financial documents. When Nathan entered the room and closed the door behind him, Victoria looked up with immediate concern. "Nathan, you look upset. What's wrong?" she asked, setting aside her papers. Nathan took a deep breath and sat across from his wife of 12 years. "Victoria, I need to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the complete truth," Nathan said, his voice trembling slightly. "Are you happy in our marriage?" The question clearly surprised Victoria, who studied Nathan's face carefully before responding. "Of course I'm happy, Nathan. Why would you ask me that?" "Because I've realized that I don't really know who you are," Nathan admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "And I think you've been hiding parts of yourself from me because you're afraid I wouldn't accept the real Victoria." Tears began forming in Victoria's eyes as she realized this conversation was heading somewhere she had always feared. "Nathan, there are things about my life, about my family, about who I really am that might change how you see me," Victoria said softly. "I've kept them secret because I was afraid of losing you and everything we've built together." Nathan reached across and took her hands in his. "Victoria, don't you think I deserve the chance to love all of you? Not just the perfect version you think I need?" Nathan asked. "And don't you deserve to be loved for who you really are?" Victoria began crying as years of hidden truth started pouring out. She told Nathan about her father who had abandoned their family when she was young, leaving her mother to raise 3 children alone while working multiple jobs. She explained how the older man at the house was actually her father, who had recently returned to their lives sick and needing care. The young woman was her sister who had been struggling with medical expenses. Victoria revealed how she had been using their money to pay for her father's cancer treatment and her sister's education, help that she provided through the envelope Nathan had seen. She had kept this secret because she knew Nathan valued success and perfection, and she feared he would see her family's struggles as a weakness or embarrassment. Nathan listened to every word, realizing that his wife wasn't having an affair at all. She was being more loving, more generous, more compassionate than he had ever imagined possible. The woman he thought he knew was actually better than he had ever dreamed, but she had hidden her best qualities because she feared his judgment. "Victoria," Nathan said, wiping tears from his own eyes, "I fell in love with you 12 years ago, but I think I'm falling in love with the real you right now." From that day forward, Nathan made it his mission to know and support every part of his wife's life, including her family, who became his family too. The Uber disguise had been meant to catch his wife in betrayal, but instead it caught Nathan in his own failure as a husband. Sometimes the person we think we know best is the one we've never really taken the time to truly see. Victoria's secrets weren't about deception. They were about love, sacrifice, and the fear that the people we love most might not accept us completely. Nathan learned that real love isn't about maintaining perfect images. It's about embracing the messy, complicated, beautiful truth of who someone really is. Their marriage became stronger than ever because it was finally built on complete honesty instead of carefully constructed perfection. This story shows us that sometimes what we fear most about the people we love is actually what makes them most worthy of our love. Before we judge someone's secrets, we should ask ourselves what kind of person we've been that made them feel those secrets were necessary. If this story touched your heart or made you think about your own relationships differently, share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that remind us to look deeper, love harder, and accept more completely. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden truths about love, family, and the courage it takes to be authentic in a world that often demands perfection.